Always up for a laugh with Chris, you know, he's always a bit of a daft joker.
When I ever met them, they were always smiling, fun, laughing, you know, close with their friends, and you know, Chris was obviously, you know, close with his brothers.
Obviously with Leeds getting into Europe, we attended pretty much every game. In fact, it was every single European game together. So you're going out with all the lads, enjoying your stay, and you're getting to meet up with everyone. Obviously spending time with my brothers, massive thing for me. We pretty much used to be always going to all games together. Yeah, so yeah, just a good lad.
I don't think they would have traipsed around Europe and all the other places that we found ourselves in over that period of time if they didn't have a love for Leeds United. It started off excitement, you know, they were in the European semi-final, and it'd been the first time in my lifetime that we'd reached those stages where to a game where I could go of such importance. I was looking forward to it. There was a great atmosphere. The flight was a bit hairy, I remember it really well. That shook a few people up. It was a difficult flight in. Landed, it was a little bit hostile, but it was nothing compared to what we'd been told to expect at the airport. And then, you know, we were shipped off to the hotel, and it was great, and then that's when, you know, we all decided to head into the middle of Istanbul and start meeting up with everybody, and, you know, a bite to eat and a few drinks, and everything was great for a few hours. People were talking about wanting to watch Chelsea-Barcelona in the European Cup. Let's go find somewhere we can watch that.
Went across Taksim Square and just got in a little bar there. About 20 of us, I think there were, just to wait for the game.
There was a really dark turn around, you know, it was early in the evening. This wasn't even late at night. We were talking probably, you know, 5, 6 p.m.
We were in a bar. It was just normal. There were a bloke playing an organ in the corner. We were all laughing loud as you are when you're having a few beers, everyone taking the mick out of each other. It was just completely normal. All 4 of us brothers there, quiet on the street, so nobody really about, to be honest with you. My eldest brother Phil, he wasn't feeling too good, so at that point I says I'd go home with him in a taxi back to the hotel. People started sort of arriving back then who had been drinking with from that bar, and they were just saying that trouble had all sort of kicked off, but everyone were okay and everyone was starting to head back towards the hotel.
I was one of the latter ones to leave the bar in Taksim Square, but before I'd even had a chance to leave properly, people were coming back in with really bad injuries. I was with, you know, I'd taken my partner, she'd been to all the European games as well, with me, massive Leeds fan, and you know, she ended up tourniqueting one of the lads' legs at the top to basically stop him bleeding to death. Other people were coming in with really bad injuries, but you were having to sort of tell them that they were okay, even though you knew they weren't. And I didn't realise at that time what had happened to Chris and Kev outside that few minutes earlier. The police were there, they turned up, they were aggressive, they were trying to get everybody out of the bar. And it was a really sort of violent atmosphere. We were being attacked by hundreds of people, but hundreds of people who were carrying weapons. It was frightening, and then you didn't feel as though you were being protected by the authorities, by the police, you know, by those that are supposed to be there to look after you when things go wrong. It was like being stuck in the middle of a nightmare, really, and you didn't know what to do. I suddenly became really paranoid. I was, you know, thrown in the back of a police van, plastic handcuffs that, even now I struggle to remember, but we got them off, got out of the van. I hid in somebody's kitchen in a bar for a while, covered in blood from other people.
It was quite a while. I don't know, I just felt something was wrong, so I jumped in a taxi and went back down there to see what had happened. My brother Daz, he was in a hospital bed. He then told me about my brother Chris. At one point, my brother was cradling my brother dying on the floor. Police were battening him around the head, and that's why he ended up in hospital. The West Yorkshire Police reckon that there were probably 500 people attacking at that point. So it's just horrific, basically, what had happened. There were also quite a few other people there. There were lots of injuries, you know, life-changing injuries from a lot of them. Everyone had been stabbed, slashed. Just horrific amount of injuries that people had.
And then it wasn't until we finally got back to the hotel a few hours later that, you know, we heard that Chris and Kev had died, and then, you know, obviously the more that came out about it, you know, you realise that it was, and I don't use these words lightly, but they hadn't just died, they'd been murdered.
It was just such a tragic occasion for everybody connected with Leeds United Football Club. I think we were in the hotel, the chairman, Peter Risdale, broke the news to us, and it was just a sense of shock through, you know, everybody who was involved in the football club. It wasn't just the players, there's other staff there, members, and you actually think about, you know, when you went to football matches yourself as a supporter, how things can happen, and found it very hard to take in at first. And then when it hit you, you realised, you know, like how tragic the event was, and tragic for everybody, you know, for the families of the men, and it was just something that shocked everybody.
My initial reaction to the news was just shock, horror, and you know, absolutely devastated to think that people that had travelled, that are our supporters, to travel all that way to, you know, follow something that you absolutely love doing, and be passionate about Leeds United and travel and go all that way to find out that your life is being taken in such tragic circumstances. I was absolutely devastated. And I was just trying to think of all the times as a kid that I'd travelled to matches with my family members, and thinking what could have been, and what could potentially happen in this situation. So yeah, I was absolutely devastated for everybody involved in their families, and couldn't really come to terms with it.
And it's something that, if you were involved at the football club or a supporter of the football club at that particular time, it's something you never forget, because you realise, you know, it could be members of your own family going to games and something like that happening. It was beyond belief.
It's just horrible, isn't it? You don't expect to go to a football match and for that to happen, and it did. And we can't forget that, and it's right that we do speak about it and we do remember these lads and the families who are still living with that day in, day out. It's very difficult for them still.
I still struggle with it now, you know, it's like it's yesterday, to be honest with you. And I'm sure it is to quite a lot of other people, you know. It's people forget that it's not just my brother Chris and Spag that were murdered that night. There was lots of other people who got injuries, slashes and stabbed, and, you know, not just that, actually seeing the friends dying on the floor and that, you know, it's had an effect on a lot of people mentally as well. You know, some people don't come to the games anymore because of that. I think from a personal point of view, I sort of shut down after it happened. I just couldn't deal with it. I struggle now on it. It's hard for me doing this, but when it had happened, we did a campaign called Leeds Fans Remembrance. We did an event every month. It brought thousands and thousands of Leeds fans all together doing different events, you know, bike rides and tough guy things, all sorts we did. And we raised like £140,000 roughly for candlelighters, which, you know, it's amazing sort of to see what we did. Every cloud, as I say, you know, it was amazing to see what we'd done.
I'm glad it brought a few of us closer and created an unbreakable bond between many people, and we all know that we're there for each other. So it's a little bit of a roller coaster, but if it's a little bit of a roller coaster for me as a bystander, how must it have been for 23 years for the family of Chris and the family of Kevin and those that they left behind? How on earth have they managed to get through these 23 years?
At the time, it was just overwhelming, you know, just to actually be sat watching people going down, putting flowers and shirts down, and the massive support that we've had from not just Leeds fans, to be honest with you, all over the country, you know, different fans. You know, it's been great. It's a massive support for us, especially on the anniversary. You get all the Leeds fans get behind you, the things that they do, you know, the minutes of applause and things like that, and flowers and all that sort of stuff. It's just amazing.
I think if you look back when it happened, and the ground was awash with tributes from many clubs, There was tributes from some of our major rivals, you know, Manchester United shirts, Chelsea shirts, you know, flowers from lads from Millwall, messages from all over the world that I know that some of the families will never forget. You know, I remember Ajax making a big thing of it at one of their closest game to whenever it happened. So things like that just show the true values of football and the true values of football fans.
Well, that's the thing about, you know, football clubs. You know, when tragic events happen, like what happened in Turkey, the fans never forget. The solidarity they show to the families of the victims, that'll never go away.
The tributes every year to Chris and Kev will never be forgotten. They'll always be remembered, and so they should be, because what happened was an absolute disgrace and should never ever happen ever again.
As a young kid, I'd probably chant and say a lot of things myself at different games. You know, I don't think you realise the implications of what you're doing, really. You know, it might only be a few words, but in the background, the families that are suffering, and also the friends and other fans that are suffering, it's massive to us. You know, it really is.
Everyone's been through some kind of tragedy in their lives, so just have a think about it before you actually go out and say something, because you'll be hurting somebody's feelings, even though you think you're being funny or you're trying to create a bit of a joke or a bit of a laugh. It's not funny.
Under no circumstances is murder funny. There's nothing to gain from it. It doesn't do anything apart from upset people. It hurts people. There's a lot of families, there's kids involved. You know, they're chanting about Istanbul, they're chanting about Munich and Hillsborough and other football tragedies. Must stop. To us, you know, we lost two great lads. The impact of that is the same as for those poor families of the Liverpool supporters that lost 97 loved ones in Hillsborough. Just because the numbers aren't as big doesn't lessen the impact on the families. It's important that, you know, that their memories live on forever through us and through this great football club.
Kevin and Christopher,
Always remembered.
Never forgotten.
Marching on together.